Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This spring, we're hosting a book club while we prepare our 10-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's Crown of Midnight. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy, and each week we'll discuss one book from our spring book club roster. By using our literary background, we'll provide our flash analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we're discussing Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbranna.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel. The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, serious spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised. So we're here to discuss Lore of the Wilds. Before we start, let everyone know this is actually a live stream for our Patreon subscribers.
For our trophy wives specifically.
Yeah, so they get to watch this live, / if they aren't able to watch it live, they get to have the episode sooner than everyone else. Raw and unedited.
Definitely unedited.
Extremely unedited. It's just us. People, it's funny because people are like, give me the unedited version. It's like, it's just.
You don't want the unedited.
It's a lot of like, my left butt cheek is numb. Let me scooch over to the right butt cheek. Now this is fine. All right, hold on. I need a stretch.
Yeah, I need some water. Let's take a sip.
Take a sip. I mean, that is basically our entire unedited is, let's take a sip. Take a sip.
Yeah,
take a sip.
Speaking of which, I need to take a sip.
Let's take a sip. I do try to, sometimes I include, let's take a sip.
Yeah.
Like, especially if it happens to land perfectly during an ad. Let's take a sip.
Like right before one?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's how often it happens that I can just.
You can time it.
I can kind of time it, yeah.
And now for an ad break.
I know. People are like, wait a minute, you guys just started. Why are we doing an ad break? Okay, so we're here to talk about Lore of the Wilds. It's
by
funny.
Analeigh Sbranna.
By Analeigh Sbranna. We listened to the book.
Mm-hmm.
We did not read it. And we are going to do our describe this in 10 words or less because Amy started this torture and I'm going to finish it. And then we're going to do a little something new afterwards. So hands up.
Hands up, buttercup.
Hands up, tits up.
My tips are not perky. Sorry.
I just like, they're so tender. So like me like jerking them kind of hurt.
Okay.
All right. About this book. Okay, you go first.
I really liked where it started. It kind of fell flat.
What can I say? I'm thinking.
Okay. Let me redo mine.
No. Okay, go if you really want to, but
liked where it started. Wish it had focused on plot.
It felt like a bridge between YA, I'm counting that as one word, and other tropes.
Okay. Not a bridge between YA and new adult, just YA and other tropes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see where I land on that when I start talking.
Okay.
But the new thing we want to include are themes because every author, you'll see themes into their books, whether they know that they're putting themes in there or it's just us observing themes. I think it's important to highlight these. So, I have a couple in mind. Did you have any in mind?
Well, if you have a couple, you start. I have some, but I want to keep thinking.
Okay. So the first and foremost is I really enjoyed, because I'm going to do the lighter one and then the heavier one. Here's the lighter one. The abuse and use of women.
Because that's so light.
Yeah, it happened. It didn't come until the very end, right? Like that we find out that they're kidnapping women, that they are forcing them to breed, and that they are being treated just like cattle, essentially. Like they are livestock to be bred. And there is a lot to be said about bodily autonomy within this book and how much, I mean, we're going to talk about consent because that was going to be a huge thing, but like how much, I guess like almost like consent within itself is a huge theme within it.
Yeah, definitely a huge theme.
Yeah. All right, so there's one of mine, and then I'll have the heavier one. That's
Sure. So I think a low-hanging fruit on this one would be found family, because there's different variations of found family throughout this novel. Starting with basically all the orphans, moving into who you choose to include in your circle when you're in a new situation, etc. So found family to start.
So the heavier one for me, and I'm gonna need some to give me a little mic to kind of take you through this journey with me, is the lack of ancestry. And what does it mean to not have ancestry? And this is something that I saw significantly in the UK, and I've seen it online. And and it might happen in other parts of the world, but I lived in the UK and I see, UK content. So this is something that I've, witnessed there. There is a lot of talk about, when you talk to Black British people versus Black Americans, a lot of Black British people know where, their grandparents moved to the UK, their great grandparents, they know what parts they came from. A lot of Black British citizens online, there's a certain discourse that I'm referencing here, have direct roots to Africa, right? And not just Africa, they know exactly what country, not just what country, what region, not just what region, what tribe, right? And there is a lot of pride there. I've seen so many conversations between Black British people and Black American people, because they'll be speaking to a Black American individual saying, well, where do you come from? Well, I'm American. No, you're not. Where you come from? I'm American. Well, you lost all your culture. You lost all your history. And it's because, that's because we had slavery here. Not great. And a lot of Black Americans don't know where their ancestry came from. However, it's also been so many centuries that Black Americans, a lot of people are just I'm American, what's different? I mean, there's a big difference as to how they got here, but the same way where people who immigrated here are, around the same time, they're American. But there ends up being a discourse around where, which is a side note, they start a lot of things I saw where it's Black British people will be like, you don't have culture. And I'm like, excuse me, Black American culture defines global culture. And if you don't see that, the direct line, the music we have today impacted by rock, you think Elvis Presley, King of Rock, he took his music from gospel. What's her name? Mama Thornton, I think, who did the original Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. She did the original You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. So rock music is directly inspired by gospel music. Gospel music is directly inspired by spirituals, which is African spiritual folk music, which came here through the slave trade. So and to say that you don't have trends, slang, clothing style, everything comes from Black American culture.
Yeah.
So all that to say, when Lord talks about the humans in this world and that they don't know where they come from and that they don't know people, the Fae almost get angry with her, how'd you get here? What do you mean you don't know where you came from? And it's we didn't have a choice. One day we weren't here and the next day we were here. And the lack of knowing their origin, the lack of knowing their ancestry, it plays a big role in identity. And I could see that being a big theme here.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge theme. And obviously my family's experience is not the same as a Black American individual's experience.
Yeah.
But my grandmother is the product of rape. And I saw even in her that struggle, because she was also abused by her mother's family. So for years she struggled with, who's my father? Where did I come from?
Yeah.
And basically, is there a part of me, a side of family in this world that would have treated me better, where I could have belonged? And so, the experience is significantly different, right? She was not born into slavery. She's not the descendant of a slave. But I saw a similar theme in her, where there's a really intense lack of identity for her.
Yeah.
And a lot of questions when you don't know part of your ancestry.
It is fascinating how much ancestry dictates identity too, right? And I know I very much embrace my Chilean ancestry. I grew up in a very culturally Chilean household. My family's very Chilean, and I take a lot of pride in my Chilean heritage. And I see the same thing with you, right? And we both love to give shit to the countries that, we're like, what the hell? But with you in China, like, there's a lot of, like, every Lunar New Year, that's our time to, I'm still wearing the red bracelet you told me to make and not take off.
Yes. Because it's our third lunar cycle. So, yes, I mean, I think it's human nature to take a lot of pride in that. And it is human nature to struggle with that lack of identity because it does it influences our feelings of belonging in the world.
Yeah. And I think this book did a really great job of taking that and then searching for it, right? Because one of the things that we get very early on is that lore is searching for magic. And in this world of fae, magic dictates identity, right? They're dark fae, light fae. They have wings, they don't have wings. They have antlers, they don't have antlers. Magic dictates your identity. So what is the one thing that she's looking for? Magic. She's looking for identity.
Yeah. Which kind of lends itself into, it's kind of hand in hand with your theme about like ancestry.
Yeah.
I will also say another theme in this book is oppression. So just like, we spoke about Black American culture, Black American history and slavery, and what Sbranna has done here that I like is light fae, dark fae, humans. They're varying shades of the same skin color.
Yeah.
So it's really not about skin color. It's about speciesism and a different type of racism, essentially. And that there will always be a class of people, in this case, dark fae, who oppress another group of people, in this case, humans.
Yeah. It's, diverse cast, like our main characters are Black, and, I love, which I will want to talk more about, like some of the representation that we see that is unbelievably needed. And, I'll just say it now, before I lose my thought. No, I won't, because now I've lost my other thought. Okay. But yes, like I do like that it ends up being more species driven, right? Light fae, dark fae, humans, but it's also like such themes that we can take and see today. And it's hard to miss that, right? And and not just like, it's not like we reached equality at the end of slavery. It's not like we reached equality at the end of segregation. It's not like we've reached equality today.
Right.
I don't know when this comes out, but maybe in like 2 weeks we figured it out, guys. Who knows?
No.
But like, I don't have faith in 2 weeks we'll like figure out racial equality and, but like, here's hoping. And I think that the idea of oppression is a big one. And even though there is, in my mind, a lot of like direct correlation between being a Black American and this book, the oppression is something that I think a lot of people, if they can't relate to, hopefully can understand and see.
Yeah, at least recognize the allegory or the symbolism of it.
Yeah.
And how it ties to history of our country. Everyone has enslaved someone else, let's be honest. So there's a lot of, I feel like, this has a direct correlation to American history.
This is a direct correlation to American history. I 100% agree. Like, this is not me shifting, but it's like whenever I look at my DNA and it's just like 21% indigenous, Chilean, like indigenous South American. And then it's like another like 20% of Spaniard. And I'm just like, well, I see who did what to there. Like,
I got some colonizer in me.
There was some, and that's on the Latin side, and the other side's pure colonizer.
Yeah,
but it is interesting where I'm like, well, I can see what happened there, and I doubt it was good.
Yep.
And that's being Latin America.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so I think that, whether, I don't understand the type of oppression that lore and the humans go through, but I think that it is valuable to see and to read about because of just how much lore fights for her people and how much that others like Finn and his sister, when they learn about lore and they learn about the humans and they learn of, wow, I didn't know that's what they went through, ends up being pivotal, right? Because that's like you have to just kind of share and educate and hope people are open to hearing your story.
Well, yes, absolutely. The reverse is also true because we have Finn and Isla who are quote unquote half breeds. They're half light fae, or right?
Yeah, I
Half
think
light
so.
fae, half dark fae. And they are treated differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their own struggles in that space, which is also true of historical America and biracial individuals. Humans have their own struggles, and Lore sees that who she might view as privileged, Finn and Isla, they have their own problems as well.
Yeah. Whenever I read books, and this isn't the first book that we've had this. I think it was even with Quicksilver. I was thinking, it reminded me of how much I'm appreciating Crescent City more, because SJM spells it out when the Asteri said, didn't I gave you humans to oppress? Wasn't that enough for you? Because so long as you feel like you're oppressing someone, you can get by, because at least you're not at the bottom of the food chain, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And just like how Finn and Isla are both, oppressed and judged in their world, well, at least they're not humans. You know what I mean? And there's always like someone more that you can step on.
Yep. Always.
Yeah. It makes me appreciate SJM kind of saying that out loud. Like just kind of directly of being like, what, like I gave you humans to shit on, to oppress. Like, wasn't that enough for you?
Yeah. It was not.
Yeah. I can appreciate it.
They had to create classism in their own
world
beyond the humans.
Yeah. Let's talk about other thoughts.
Sure. So let's talk about world building.
Yeah.
I appreciate the journey from the human village into the Fae territory. I liked how Lore discovers that there's a spell on her territory that keeps all the humans inside. It's almost like they're in a pen, and that's like electrical wires or something, that the second they try to venture near, they get zapped and they have to go back.
Uh-huh.
And like that just heightens the level of oppression that is taking place here. So I really enjoyed that. I did feel like I got a quick understanding of the human space and the differences of the Fae territory.
Agreed. I did like the world. I liked that the world was so steeped in magic that it was like a part of it, right? Like, I think about the forest and how, the forest gives flowers to the people that it wants to give, that, it feels like sometimes in books, there's the world and then there's magic, right? And, there's this thing and then there's this thing, and the thing being the world, the thing being magic. And this one felt very much like, I think Analeigh did a good job of having magic be so integral. No, mixed in and integrated. No, what am I? Why
integrated?
Integrated. Why are my words going so tits up? Integrate. Wow. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
Mixed with the actual world. It felt like one of the same.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. Where I would say Harry Potter.
Yes.
The world and the magic are two very separate identities, where here we have a world in which nature and magic are one and the same.
Agreed. Yeah. And I like that. I don't think that we see that enough in books, and I think that you can't come up with that world without some type of forethought, right? And, by doing that, you're also limiting yourself too, right? Of what you can do. You've created rules and structures and what you can and cannot do and say. I liked that even in this world that she's built and that there is magic, it's not flowing freely to each individual completely. And that kind of adds another layer to the world where it's like, oh, well, this isn't just magic and everyone can just, turn on a light just with a flick of their finger. This isn't, even though it's melded so well into this world, it's still separate from some of the people.
Right. And it seems to be very based on bloodlines.
Yeah.
Which also makes sense, right? If you think of survival of the fittest, those who are strongest with magic would breed with one another to continue to have stronger magic, and tough shit for everybody else.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find any Instagram prose about the world, because I did enjoy the world. I like that there was a system within it. I like that there was a system in the concept of dark fae, light fae. the winged fae, like there definitely is a hierarchy there. And then even in the world where it wasn't just like, you know, fae, like there were different types too, right? Like if I remember correctly, there's like almost like tree looking fae, blue. I mean, I don't know if I made that up to something else, but right, that was there.
I can't remember that, to be honest.
Okay.
Also,
go ahead.
while you're looking that up, I also really liked the Enchanted Library. That I did like the Enchanted Library trope, and Jac is smiling.
Because that is the comment I'm reading. I love the world and the Enchanted Library, and that lore gets her power from the book.
And that the book speaks only to select people, right?
Yeah.
And it can only be used in a certain time in a certain way. And that part of the book and that part of Lore's journey is replicating the accident that revealed the book to her, right? I do enjoy that. I do enjoy that mystery element. I do enjoy the fantastical nature of it. I think it's very clever. It feels like whoever created the book was very intentional about it. And it does lend itself to giving this whole chosen one destiny without being like, you are the, Luke.
There was something born inside you and you are. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I haven't read the second book, so who knows?
I haven't either. There is a second book. It's called Lore of the Tides, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. So the comment I read is from Stevie. I agree. The library and the book were really cool. I think what I liked about the book is that there ends up being an explanation about it, and it's not just a magic book. I have nothing against just a straight up magic book. I've seen Hocus Pocus. I know how it works. But I think that having a purpose, like there's a backstory behind this magic book, and that it's not just some like cool fancy grimoire thing. I appreciate lore. Oh, dang, her name is Lore. I appreciate the lore behind the book.
I do too. I know. We also have Lore as a protagonist name in Trail of the Sun Queen.
Yeah, that's where I was like, what else does this feel so familiar? Sierra says it's so witchy.
It is very witchy, and I did like that. I do like when things feel kind of Wiccan, witchy, gives me Buffy vibes, right? Of magic is not only about saying the right incantation or something inside you, it's about following a recipe. It's about doing the right steps. That feels very witchy.
And all the trial and error, like it didn't just come to lore. It was definitely a trial and error, getting better, slower, figuring it out one step at a time, making mistakes. So I liked that it didn't just come naturally. Like there were some natural elements, but it wasn't just and I just happened to knew all of this immediately.
Right, exactly. And the book just happened to have all the information I was looking for right away.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, several people said that they really liked the library, actually. I gotta love a library.
An enchanted library. I think what I liked about it was that she was the only one who could access it. That it wasn't a library that others frequented often, and somehow she discovers something that no one's discovered ever before.
Yeah.
No one's been able to access this thing for 1,000 years because they will die if they do.
And that's a good reason. That is a good reason. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I'd go in. Well, yeah. I don't know. I would rather not. I mean, I guess you don't really have a choice.
Yeah, you don't really.
I felt very hurt when we find out that Laura's village was not being taken care of.
Yeah. So did you believe when she made the bargain that Lord, what is his name?
Cyrell. Yeah.
That he would follow through?
I did. And I don't know why I did. Maybe because I'm a gullible fool where I was like, yeah, that's fine. He's cool.
Did you think he might be a love interest initially, and that's why?
Probably. I mean, it's funny because it's almost like Analeigh started the book. It's like, this is going to be a love triangle. And then it's like, psych, it's not a love triangle. It's going to be a love triangle with these two. Psych, it is in fact a love triangle.
I did like the layers of that. I did like that you go into this, at least for me.
Yeah.
I think Lord Cyrell is going to be a love interest alongside Asher.
Yeah.
And then, nope, it's Asher and Finn. Nope, psych.
It is Cyrell, Asher, and Finn.
It is.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so my instincts weren't wrong. That's cool.
Yeah. I do think that twist was clever. It definitely surprised me But when I
Yeah.
paused to think back on what were the clues, I did see them in hindsight.
Let's talk about those clues, because the only clue I could really have is, okay, two clues. One, they're never in the same room at the same time. But like,
Right.
I don't feel like that's enough of a clue, because why would they be? We already know one's a lowly guard. The other one is a lord. So like, it makes sense. The only other clue would be, I was thinking, I'm like, it's so weird that Asher's like willing to leave it all, right? Like just abandon everything, follow lore. Of course, I'm going to take care of you. Let's go. And just like has no concern about whether or not, he'll get in trouble or not. Well, that makes sense. He's the Lord.
So for me, the clue goes back to the kind of secret garden space. So Asher first takes Lore to it during the autumn equinox, I believe. And if you think about it, it's almost like an inner sanctum for the royal family. If you think of it in terms of a palace.
Yeah.
And that's where she finds him again when he's missing for weeks. And to me that was, I guess, clue enough, in addition to them never being in the same space at the same time. Should there have been more clues?
Yes.
Yes, there should have been.
Yeah, there should have been more clues. I'm still struggling with the reveal that he's Asher. I think I would have been slightly more on board with it if Cyrell wasn't such a dick at the end. You know what I mean? If he still had like a lore, it's still me. We can be together. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like, what was the need for him to, I guess he can't just take the book. Like, he needs lore, right? So that makes sense. It's not like he can be like, oh, don't need you, psych. Like, he does need her on his side. But like, he just got so mean at the end, being like, disgusted that she's a human, which would be really hard. Be like, oh, you weren't disgusted when you were between my thighs now, were you, bitch?
Right. And eating her out?
Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, really? Too grossed out to have a full course menu?
Yeah.
Eating it right out there. And then like, there's just so many intimate moments between, not just like sex, but like, emotional connections. And, even like some of his backstory where it's like, when they first ran away and Finn was upset or Asher was upset because he was like, I only had 3 months left before I was free, Lore. How dare you? And I'm like, in hindsight, it was like, wow, actor, somebody give him an Oscar. Talk about a backstory.
That is fair. That is very fair. So it does make me wonder two things. Was the reveal always the intent, or was Asher originally a different character? And because of, the writing process, sometimes you have to cut characters or whatnot. And so she's like, oh, let me just merge these two characters. The other thought I have is Cyrell over the top mean to hide the fact that he's manipulative, right? He's just not a good guy. But he did start to develop feelings, and that's counter to his end goal.
I would definitely have to see how book 2 plays out. Like, was he straight up using her from the get-go? Because also, why did he give her money at the very beginning? You know what I mean? Like, when he went into her shop, I think she says like he knew I was gouging them for money, and he was like, go ahead, pay her and stuff. Yeah. Like, there was already that hint of, well, he's not horrible, right? He's not like the other friend that he's with.
Right.
So there was already a like, but he's not like other boys aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's funny because the part where I knew Cyrell was probably evil and I stopped trusting him was when he had tea with Lore and he made the steward get them tea and stuff. And then he was just like, hey, just being super nice to her, and was like, hey, I'm going to need you to do this for me. I'm going to need you to go get that book for me. Can you do that for me? And immediately I was like, this is evil. Like,
that was the turning point.
That was the turning point. I'm like, oh, you're evil. I don't trust you. I don't know why, but I don't like it. I don't know why it gives me pure evil vibes. I mean, maybe it's like the making the steward serve them just to be like, to do a power play. But at the same time, I feel like you could be a good guy and still fuck
do
with
that.
someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and fuck with someone that you think deserves it.
Yeah.
Because Lore appreciates it.
Right? And he does. And the steward does deserve it. He's like straight up threatening to rape her at the end.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. So yeah, the reveal, several people in the pros liked the reveal. There was a lot of comments saying that the plot twist didn't see them coming. It was very different, a different type of plot twist. You know, you don't really get a lot of they're the same person anymore.
Well, yeah, it's the love interest is also just a disguise for the antagonist. That
Yeah.
is not something you see often, and I think that's why I like it so much and forgive the lack of clues,
Yeah.
because I was caught off guard enough that I'm like,
Huh.
oh, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm on
is it
board.
earned? Is it earned? And probably no.
So I think that's a question I kind of have in general with this book is it earned? And I feel like a lot of the things that I have with, I don't want to call it issues, a lot of the questions, a lot of the points, a lot of my like pauses is the matter of is it earned? And I kind of want to propose this next aspect. In my like the beginning, I said it's like a weird bridge between things. I thought this book was YA. I thought it because on Goodreads it said YA. I thought it because it really read as YA. Even though Lore's 21, it read as YA. When I was having brunch with Alwyn, she's the one who made this point to me. She was like, YA is normally very quickly paced. It's very, you get from point A, point B very, very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah.
And this read like that. Like, it jumped. If I was not paying attention for a second, I'd be like, wait, 2 weeks have passed?
Yeah.
Or now, when she went to go get Gray, I swear to God, all I did was refill my water. And then I'm like, wait, she went from, I need to save him to, she's in the castle? Like, it was the most.
Yeah, it was very, very fast.
Yeah. So it wasn't until Asher went down on her where I was like, is this no YA?
I had this same reaction. 100% felt like it read as YA because the character, if I didn't know her age, I would have guessed was 16.
Agreed.
And that's how she read to me. And so, yes, it was not until the full-on sex descriptions that I was like, oh, okay. Did not know that's what I was getting.
Yeah, it felt wrong. Of like, but she's just a child. Why am I reading this? And
but she's not a child.
She gave plenty of clues. Like, it's not like she was not a virgin. Like, she talked about like being with boys, not knowing what to do, and it wasn't even that spicy, right? Like, it was going into detail, but like, there can always be more. But it was still very shocking to me, and Lore feels very immature to me. I think the immaturity comes from how fast-paced this feels.
Right, because she is actually very mature in the sense that she works at her aunt's apothecary. She takes care of orphans. She cares about them. Like, there are some very mature aspects to her, but she doesn't read mature.
And I think that's because of how fast-paced this book is. It's like, it feels like her choices and her decisions are impulsive, right? Yes. I'm going to go save Gray. I'm going to go escape. I'm going to go do this. It doesn't feel like anything has been thought out. It feels very impulsive. It feels very like, okay, so now we're doing this. Babe, did you even think once about where you're going with any of that?
Yeah.
And that's the nature of the writing.
Yeah. And the way that the author chooses to move the plot along. Because to your point, if you think about the new adult or older romantasies, it's not afraid of dwelling where it needs to dwell.
Yeah.
And this book does not dwell anywhere.
Not in a heartbeat, not at all. There is not a moment it dwelled on. The only time I felt like it was paced really well was in the human village.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's why I had such high hopes in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the start was really, really well paced. It gave me the information I wanted and needed. And it set me off on a journey that I was excited to go on.
I do really wish there were parts that she might have given up in
Such
order
as
saving Gray.
Yeah, that didn't feel necessary in this book. I was shocked that it happened because I was like, what purpose does that serve?
I blinked and it happened. I don't know if it was meant for us to see that she's brave. It's meant to show that she's clever and she can outwit the queen if she can, like, I don't know. Also, how close is this castle that she could just like go there overnight and was like, okay, I got him, I'm back. Like, it's all fine and dandy. I don't think he brought any value after, other than finding out that all of the family, that everyone's been kidnapped, which could have been discovered any other way.
Yep, I completely agree. I don't think it served. The only reason I could see it happening is so that it doesn't have to happen and take up time in book 2. However, I don't think that's a good enough reason.
I mean, have him held up with the humans, right? Like, have him been round up with them as well. I know they're only saving women because they need to breed, but like, include men in there too or something, like just, I felt like that was a waste of time when there could have been dwelling. And maybe that is a personal preference thing. I think about Spark of the Everflame, and I know people, it drove them crazy, right? With how much DM dwelled on things, with how much did I get it right? The right character's name? Wow.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you. But like, I know there was a lot of people who had issues with like, oh my God, like you're making the same mistake, like move on,
Yeah.
I think that this is that comes into personal preferences. So, people may not feel the same way about it, like as we do, but there is value in dwelling on something, because then I get to feel the weight of decisions that are made.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's a good point. It makes me realize that, Lore is very impulsive, as you said. But for someone who is so impulsive, I don't feel like she made enough mistakes where the consequences came back to bite her in the ass.
Yeah, it all worked out. Like even running away from the castle to begin with, right? Like she ran with Asher. Yes, she got stabbed in the leg, but like, it all worked out. And, he's still into her and everything is fine. And, he didn't talk to her for a couple days.
Yeah, and maybe that's ultimately what this comes down to. And this is why at the start I talked a lot about, or my 10 words was, there wasn't enough plot.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough leaning in, I think, to things never work out the way the protagonist wants them to work out.
Yeah.
And things worked out it was too easy to overcome some of the problems that came up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember, like, why is it that Asher and Isla left? Like she got spotted. Oh, because she got spotted and it took 2 weeks to draw them away. Like,
that was a long time.
Why couldn't they have been the ones to go get Gray? And I know that Lore would have been like, no, I'm absolutely coming with you. But that would have been like, I don't know, a moment enough for me to believe that why it would take them 2 weeks time, 5 days to get to the castle, 5 days to come back. And also like Isla was not developed. I was excited to get her at first. I was excited she had a lot of energy, a lot of, a different vibrance. Yeah. She was very vibrant and a lot of just whole different energy to the book. She got really drunk with Lore. I was really excited about it. And then she disappeared and we found out she's a lesbian. And it just was like, where the hell did any of this come from?
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, the one female friend that Lore could have had ends up being a throwaway character is disappointing because it means it's in favor of these two love interests, right? And I wasn't invested enough in either of them to care who she ended up with.
It's so true. I was just annoyed enough for Asher's sake that she kind of had this like undeniable affection for Finn. I mean, it was almost to the point where I'm like, there has to be, you have to give me a fated mate something.
I think it is fated mate. I just I don't think we've discovered it yet.
One, because they make it seem like he hates her from the beginning because he loves her. Like, one, he doesn't like her, but then, like he probably doesn't like outsiders, but then it's like, I got immediately, he can't stand her because he wants her and he can't have her. And it felt very out of nowhere. There was no time for them to fall in love. I don't think we got enough of his personality because there was one line at the very end when they're saving all the humans. And I think Asher must have made a joke or something. And Laura goes, oh, that was just like Asher to make a joke at a time like this. And I was like, is it? Is it just like Asher? Because I can't really tell you. I know he's kind of nice to you sometimes and then a prick outside of that, which I'm okay with. Like, that's a recipe for grumpy sunshine if I've ever seen one.
Right.
But I did not get enough personality from him.
Yep, I agree.
Or from Ash. Or I'm trying to get personality from any of them. Yeah.
There was enough to understand the archetype.
Yes.
There was not enough to make a unique character.
But that comes back to writing style. Like
It
Analeigh
is
made a
very
choice.
YA.
Yeah, and that's the YA of it, right? And Analeigh made a choice of, I'm going to get through this story quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I think I have it.
We have a giveaway version.
Yeah,
A
you guys
copy.
should. Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, that's in my closet. I'm not going to go digging in my closet, but I want to see how big it is.
It's not very big. It's
Yeah.
like this big.
Sorry. Give me 1 second. Let me stand up. I want to see if I can hold it. Yeah, I can hear you.
The hardback version, I'm pretty sure, is less than an inch and a half. Like it's not very large.
Here it is.
Yep.
It's tiny.
Which again makes it feel very YA.
Agreed. And this is, hold on, I'm just going through. It's only 335 pages, and the font is pretty large.
Yeah, I feel like if I had been her editor, I would have said take more time to develop these characters and the connections and the world. You can afford to add 200 pages to it.
Completely. Even 100 pages. But I mean, I think she could have done 200. But if she doesn't want to write a 500-page book, 100 more pages would have, like, take out Saving Gray and add 100 pages. And that would be a huge boon for me. However, maybe Analeigh wrote this being tired of books that dwelled. You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair.
there are plenty of readers out there who really don't like, I mean, they had a hard time with Spark of the Everflame, of Guild, of like these other books that I really like. And that just comes down to writing style and preference, where it's like, I didn't realize how tiny it was of like, that is the YA. But then I think of like Harry Potter, and it was willing to be chunkier, but I think
not at the start.
Not at the start. That's the benefit of having semesters and making it like a full like school year, because you're like, oh, now we're here. I think that, let me read some of the things that our listeners said that they kind of had a little struggle with, and it leans into what we're saying. Stevie again says, all the weird time jumps that left me confused and feeling like the plot wasn't earned. Absolutely. The time jumps were rough.
I actually didn't mind the time jumps. They didn't bother me, because I think more books should be spending more time doing things, right? Instead of, we saved the world in a week.
Books should take time. You're right. I should be able to accept 2 weeks later type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the time jumps didn't necessarily bother me, but is it because I wasn't invested in lore and so I was along for the ride? I don't know.
The time jumps, I didn't care for the time jumps were a little harder for me, because even though I agree, I appreciate how much like Analeigh was like, no, 2 weeks, that's what's going to pass. I didn't always know how much time was passing, and it didn't always correlate with the amount of action that was going on, because, and I'm referencing the 2 weeks where Asher and Isla are gone, right? And they're going to, like, they're on their little, it takes them 2 weeks to run around. I thought they were getting together until I realized that she was gay. I was like, and they're going to come back and they're together. But in those 2 weeks, Lore sets up the kitchen and starts cooking for everyone. And then the pub is like busy and popular. And then her and Finn, it takes a couple days for them to warm up to each other. And then finally they're willing to work with one another. And then, they work every night together. And
yeah, that sounds like a month.
Yeah. And that's where it's like the time jumps.
Yeah.
I'm okay with you saying 2 weeks, but you are fitting so much in these 2 weeks to make me believe it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So it was like, that was a month. That's a month worth of shit there.
Yeah.
Good shit that I want. It's a month worth. Like, you want me to believe that all of these wonderful things are happening. Like, I need a little bit more time. And I think that's the other one with Finn. Her having feelings for him just came so out of nowhere.
Which is why I think for me, it made it feel like fated mates, because it wasn't earned.
Yeah.
Right? It was just the instant pool that all fated mates have the first time they meet.
And if they're not fated mates, I will be pissed at Lore. You were feeling another guy.
Yeah,
you were into him.
Is it forgiven because Asher is the bad guy?
Not by my standards. I don't care. You are loyal until you find out that you're not loyal. You don't need to be loyal. And if that is truly the case, that there's no fated mates and it ends up being that like we're supposed to be okay with it because Asher is a bad guy, that's I don't know. I struggle not judging characters for,
Morality.
more, like, especially when it comes to like, I don't know, like love and everything. Like just go into like, just be with your person.
Yeah.
And then once they show that they're shit, then you can,
Yeah, for me, that's only because I am guilty of this when I do my own writing, when I try to have, for lack of a better word, triangle, but even just where the character's put in a situation where they could make the choice they want versus the choice they should.
Yeah.
And to me, at least in my experience, it's been the author's just really excited to get the true love interest together instead of taking the time to prove to the reader that the other person is not the person and that the protagonist has done the morally right thing of leaving that person and then going to the real love interest.
I need to finish reading Lightlark series.
Oh man, Nightbane is so good. I was just thinking about that again yesterday.
Was that the second book?
Yeah.
I need to go and do that one.
I almost liked it better than Lightlark.
Wow.
It was really good.
Okay. I think that's a good one to look into, where that's another YA, because that's considered YA.
Yeah.
And that's also a love triangle.
Yeah. And there's some sex in there.
Yeah.
But it's not graphic, which I was really disappointed about.
Like, damn it, YA. Why must we?
But oh man, that triangle.
Amy doesn't get this type of far off happy look on her face often.
I need to go back and read the third book, but the second book was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's hard to do love triangles, like
very.
Even with one of my favorite all-time love triangles, Steph and Elena and Damon, right, from Vampire Diaries. That's a really hard one because it's like, I was rooting for Damon, but at the same time you're trying to not judge Elena because she's with Stefan, and and even with like in Mist and Fury, right, you have Rhys and Tamlin, but at the same time, like, SJM kind of gets rid of Tamlin very quickly of like, he's shit, we can ditch him, it's fine.
Yeah, but even though he's shit, Favor still goes through her emotional turmoil for a long time.
Yeah.
Before she and Rhys are really together.
Yeah. Like, she really doesn't consider Rhys until her and Tamlin are done.
Yeah, until she sends the note saying we're done.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like, okay, now I'm willing to like really look at him. And I think that's where it's hard, where, I think at one point Lore sees Finn and that he's safe, and like she like runs to him and throws her arms around him and is like, oh, you're good. Like, I'm like, calm down. I'm still angry about this betrayal about Asher, and I don't know if I believe it entirely. Like, that the fact that Asher pretended to be Asher and go and made friends with Isla and Finn and led this double life because he was bored being a royal. Yeah,
it is. And that's why my theory is it was two different characters.
That makes sense to me. Okay. It's interesting because people are saying one thing, we're saying another thing, but yet I feel like we're saying the same thing.
Okay,
a couple of comments. Execution was meh in the middle of the book. Felt too slow and disjointed. Another one. It took too long to get to the point. Another one. It took forever to get to the ending. Another one. Things felt too slow. It's funny how everyone's saying it felt slow, but you and I were like, it happened too fast. However, I think both are true.
I think both are true because if the point is to get to Finn and Isla, it took too long to get to Finn and Isla.
Yeah.
I don't think that they needed to be in a different town. I think they all should have been in the same town.
Yeah. But then it would be harder for them to run away from the guards and be safe and everything.
But they could have all been like, let's go to our dad's, right?
Oh, yeah. And then go do the travel, which honestly probably would have made more sense if Asher needed some time away to be from his royal self.
Yeah.
Don't go to a town that's like 5 days ride or something.
Right. So, well, he has wings. It might get him faster there because he can change at will, right? So I do think I felt like the meat and potatoes was once all the characters were together.
Yeah.
And that did happen too late in the book.
Yes.
But at the same time, I do feel like the sequence of events takes place very quickly.
Yeah. I also, what's the plot?
Lore goes to the Fae because it's either her or her aunt.
Huh?
She makes a bargain to search for books.
Gets the book.
Gets the book. Realizes that the bargain she made is not being honored. Runs away because she's killed people in an effort to save Asher. And then they go into hiding. And then the other half of the book is them in hiding.
Yeah, and I think that's where
there was no end goal.
Yes. And if there was a thing that Laura was working towards, if it was like, there's this one spell that will break the, that like, oh, I need to like break the constraints around my village, and I think she does say something along the lines of like, I can help them with my magic. I just need to get there. But it's very, I'm like, it needed to have that overarching plot. And that happens where, it's a formula, but there's formulas for a reason why this work, where you have the overarching plot that gets you from the beginning to the end, and you'll have other plots within, but it's the one driving force that gets them all the way through.
Yeah, I think we talked about that with Alwyn, right? Where at the very beginning, we must be introduced to the question or the purpose that drives us all the way through. And you can introduce smaller chunks of questions and purposes. But yeah, we didn't have the thing.
There was no thing. Like, the plot got you till, like, your summary of the plot got you till midway of the book, right? If we had learned much earlier about the Fae using, I thought the Fae taking the villagers was a good, like, mid to end shocker thing, right?
Yeah.
But you still needed that overarching. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was trying to let you finish. I apologize. So it's, again, this idea of dwelling. We're introduced really early on that the purpose is to find magical books, which Lore does really fast.
Yeah.
Why couldn't the first book have been developing the relationship with Asher and not finding the magic until the end? And learning more about her ancestry or whatever the case is. And then the second book, like, this could have been split into 2 different books and expanded upon.
Yeah.
And then the second book is the running away, the meeting Finn and Isla, the developing that relationship, and then the big reveal.
Yeah. Yeah. It did feel like there was a bunch of mini goals that are set, right? And that's like the time in the library, getting that book, learning magic. And, it was, there was a lot of things that just like needed to be like, we're basing this off trust, right? Magic book tells you that everyone in your village is like, that nothing's being taken care of and that you've been betrayed. That's a hell of a thing to trust from a magic book. And, when she's pressed on it, she's like, I can feel that it's true. There are so many things that I feel like are true, and it's not. It's not true.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I don't, and I just like, that's a hell of a thing to say, like, all right, I'm going to run and risk everything to go save them because of this magic book that I talked to maybe 2 times, once, that suddenly asks to be part of me and me it. I don't know what that means. I need a little bit more information. Like, I feel like that would have been another moment where maybe the book had teased out what helping Lore would have looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe the first vision it gives her is not her town. It's something else that's happening where she's at. So she learns this is where the power of 3 comes in, right? She could have done it 3 times with the book, and the last one could have been her village. And because she saw the evidence with the first 2, she believes it with the third.
And I think that would have been also good moments to get clues about Asher.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to call him the Surreal. Sorrel. Like, all of a sudden you see Asher walk behind a corner and then Cyrell walks out the other side. Who knew?
Or why is Asher at my destroyed town and why hasn't he told me?
Yeah, just like little things that you could have had like clues to be a part of it. But I agree. If you're going to keep it to be a shorter book, and if you're going to, it's so ambitious for such a small book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's rough.
Yep.
But, that doesn't mean that but again, like, I really do want to emphasize that I don't think that's a bad thing. It really feels like one of those call and response to maybe there are people who just can't handle those big ass books. Like, I'm looking at my book, hold on, give me 1 second. I'm grabbing another book.
Okay.
All right. when you compare it to Goldfinch, like
Yeah, but it would probably be better to compare it to
Quicksilver.
Guild.
Oh, well, Quicksilver is another first book.
Yeah, Quicksilver is a first book.
I'm just saying, Quicksilver is another first book that's huge. I'm just trying to compare it to books that are huge, not within the same size. And the reason why I'm comparing it to books that are huge is because there are so many people who don't like it and can't get through books that are big because they can't focus and they can't get through it. It's just too much. And I think Lore of the Wilds is perfect for someone who might struggle with, taking forever on some things and and that really feels like she made a choice to make it this fast pace.
Yeah, which and she's entitled to that because that's that it's her book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Lore of the Tides, which is the second book, doesn't come out till July of this year.
Oh, okay.
But so far, it looks like the ARCs have rated it more highly than the first book on Goodreads.
Nice. Yeah, for such a tiny book, it accomplished so much in the sense of themes, in the sense of heavy topics to come about, right? In the sense of representation, like I think that things that again, I'm a dweller. I'm learning a lot about me as a reader and as a writer with this podcast, right?
Yeah,
where it's like,
yeah.
I guess I really am more of a dweller because here's a subject that like, and dwelling doesn't mean bad. It just means like giving, some time and space to it.
Yeah.
And when Lore talks about her hair oils and and she mentions it multiple times. My hair's like when she goes to the castle and she talks about how her hair is being dried, how dry her hair is, how it needs to be brushed properly and how it needs, proper treatment, and which is so important because Lore has much more textured hair than a lot of the heroines and protagonists that we've read, and which again is a great example of more representation and an element of reality that we don't see in books, right? In fantasy books.
Yeah. To me, this reminds me of Chef's Choice, where we learned so much about, transgender experience, transgender culture, but it wasn't in your face about it. That's how I feel about Lore's hair situation in this. And I wish there had been more of that because it was very educational without being wagging a finger.
It's educational without it's not even like, I know we say wagging a finger, but I almost want to be like bold, underlined, obvious
like,
type thing.
I'm trying to teach you something here.
Yeah, like it felt very natural and part of the story, and I liked that. And those are the moments where it's like, yeah, give the beats, give the pause, because she did give the pause, right? She did give the moment to consider. She did give the time for us to be like, somebody get Lore her hair oils.
Yeah.
Let her condition this.
Yeah.
Let her condition her hair. So, I do like that. And I can tell this is me really assuming, for everything that I feel like Analeigh set out to do, she did and did what she wanted to do well. I love a more and dwelling book.
Yeah. I think if her intent was to write a fast-paced book, if her intent was to have a snappy reveal that threw us for a loop, if her intent was to create a love triangle where maybe for once we didn't want the protagonist to end up with the first person she was with, I think she accomplished that.
Yeah. This is not, there's only like 2 books in the history of our book clubs that, no, because even the one that I didn't care for, I wouldn't say it was a bad book. I just didn't care for it. Versus the one that you didn't care for, you're like, that's a fucking bad book.
I don't think I would say it's a bad book because lots of people loved it.
Yeah.
I would say nothing about the style spoke to me.
It was a notch nicer. I was ready for you to give me a zinger, like something more intense than that, but that was very well spoken. What I was saying though, Lore of the Wilds falls nowhere near that for me, right? Like it's not even remotely near anything that I would deem as bad or something that I would still recommend this book to people if there was something that, someone was like, wow, I really just couldn't get through this other one. I really want this. I'd be like, actually, I know what you would like. And as a reader and as a writer, it taught me more about myself and what I want in a book and what I want to write and what I want to read. Give me a behemoth of a story that just 5 pages on looking into a forest and deciding if you are the forest or not. And then the exciting thing is we're going to be doing a giveaway for this book. We have a signed copy of Lord of the Wilds. We just have 1 or 2.
I don't remember.
At least 1.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's 2 because I don't think I got yours personalized. I think
because I saw Analeigh before at a signing, so I actually already have a signed copy.
So we only have 1 signed copy.
Okay, so we have a signed copy of Lord of the Wilds that we're going to do a giveaway for, and
there are people who love this book. There are lots of readers out there who, for them, this is their favorite book, and that's okay.
Yeah,
they are entitled to that opinion. We as readers don't have that same opinion. And we're entitled to our opinions.
I don't think this is one of those I felt like was a waste of time or anything like that. Like, no. I still enjoyed it, and the reason why I'm saying this is because there are a lot of people who listen, even though they've never read the book, and they're like, I decide if I want to read it based on what you say. And I'm like, oh no.
You might actually like the book when we don't like it.
It's none of it was bad. Like, none of it was, it purely comes down to style.
Yeah. And preference.
And just because we like a different style and preference doesn't diminish it, because I still enjoyed it. I still had fun with it.
Here's how I will qualify it. Knowing what I know about it, if I was told I needed to read it again, I would.
Yes. Because what if it was always meant to be that these 2 characters were the same and we just bypassed every clue and everything else with it? I think the reveal, if you haven't read it and you've listened to this episode, knowing all the spoilers we've given you, definitely recommend.
Yeah, I still think it's worth a read. I think there were some really wonderful elements of it that I really did enjoy. I think that for a first novel, for a debut novel, she gave it a solid effort.
Agreed.
And it is worth the read. Even if stylistically it was not what I wanted for it.
Yep. Agreed. Which also speaks volumes to what she's created, because we are asking for more.
Yeah, it's so true.
If I didn't want more, I'd be like, thank God this book is done.
Yes,
but what true. Right? Otherwise, you and I are saying, you know what? I want more time in Laura's head. I want more time with her in the library, with Asher. I want to see them fall in love, out of love. Like, give me the time with her. And I would rather feel that way from a book. If I'm not going to have the 100%, this is the best book in the entire world, I would rather feel that way walking away from a book than feeling like I am over it and I'm so done having not seen them.
Right. And I feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah. No, I walked away being like, you know what? I could do more. I would love more from her.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Stay tuned for a special episode this Thursday where we interview Nisha J. Tooley, author of Trial of the Sun Queen and the Artifacts of Oranos series.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you'd like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this spring, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Bye.